And we are joined, Lake Lewis Jr., host of the Lake Lewis Jr. Show, our Commanders insider as well, taking some time to chat with us and spend this Friday getting set. It's a rare Friday where you get to come in with us.
It is. We have a day off today. It's a day of recovery. That's what the team's calling it. So I think, it's good for us, too, in the media to be able to recover because we've traveled so much. So we'll be back out there tomorrow, though.
Hey, so, you get to recover after watching the Eagles be what happened in that? That is the most crazy outcome. I
got to tell you, Jack, I was not expecting that at all. I mean, that was, if I were a betting man, which I can't be, we're not allowed to bet, NFL media. But if I were, I would have taken the Eagles and the 7.5. And they went out there and got steamrolled. So I was really shocked about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying on the show yesterday that this is a get right spot for the Eagles. No offense to the Giants, but they hadn't done anything well all season. But Jackson Dart now 2-1 in his 3 I mean, I love Jackson Dart. I think it was Kirk Herbstreit on the broadcast. It was funny. He goes, the kids call it swagger, but I call it confidence. And it's like, well, those are the same thing, Kirk. But I understand. I get it. He does have that swagger. He's got a swagger about him that is very impressive.
He does, and it fits New York City.
Yes.
It does. Daniel Jones was more of the laid back type of guy, and I think Daniel Jones fits Indianapolis, ironically, but. I think with Jackson Dart, I mean, he's giving New York hope. They may have maybe they found one. And I think it's eerily similar to now what you see here in Washington with Jaden and then also with Bill Krosky-Merritt. They have a quarterback and a running back that they can build with in the future. And the Giants seemingly might have that with him and Scatterboo.
It's going to be fun. Let's go out to the phone lines here to start off this Friday. We've got Raven Rob on line 1. Good morning, Raven Rob. How we doing?
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Can we just address the endurance and just the motivation that Scatterboo has, the confidence, right? We haven't seen something like this, and I've been a big fan of Scatterboo even in college, and just for him finally getting comfortable and. I mean, he's a bulldozer, right? He's always been a bulldozer. He wants that contact. He is not afraid of it. So, they found something there. Obviously with Saquon going to the Eagles finally. Obviously I'm a Ravens fan, but then you got Dart, who would have sat on the bench if Russ, which he's been washed up for a couple years, but if he wouldn't have played bad the first 2 games or so, he wouldn't have got that shot to showcase his endurance, right? He's not afraid to run the ball. Now, when he passes the ball, at some point, he's going to realize that he needs to throw off of that back foot, right? He does throw a little wonky sometimes, but when he plants, he throws darts, right? So they got something finally over there in New York, but it's still, this is the season where they need to get both of them comfortable. And then I think moving forward, they got something special.
They got a nice little 1-2 punch back there. Thank you so much for calling in, Raven Rob. Have a great rest of your Friday. They've got a duo, and I know Scatterboo did not have good combine measurables. I think he ran slow. He didn't jump high. But he's a bulldog. He's a bulldozer, whatever. And dropping to the 4th round, what a steal it turned out to be.
Absolutely. And the other thing you can say, too, is that, let's not forget about Malik Neighbors. I know, he has the knee injury now and he's out for the remainder of the year. But we're talking about a guy that clearly was one of the top 5 receivers in the NFL as, basically a second-year player. So, when I look at Scatterboo, he reminds me so much of maybe a smaller, diminutive version of Mike Allstott. That's who I see. He's just a guy.
I actually nicknamed him Scatterstott because of that.
Get a neck roll for him. We're about to have a good
Scatterstott. That's what he looks like.
Yeah, that's exactly who he reminds me of. And it's like, think in the 4th quarter, if you're a D-back, you don't want to come up and hit that.
Heck, if you're a defensive lineman, you don't want to hit that.
I saw Dory Jackson you last night making some business decisions as well.
My boy Trey Amos, man, he still ain't recovered.
I mean, at least Trey stepped up in there. Though.
God bless him.
I'll
Yeah,
give
he
him
tried.
credit, but Adoree Jackson last night looked like he was in the wrong sport. Looked like he might need to be down in Central America, like Matadorin or something like that. That was bad.
Yeah, and Adoree Jackson has a bit of a rough start to this season too.
You think?
The Cowboys, I remember, just obliterated him in that opening night win. The Giants are, and like, call me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like a team that now with Jackson Dart are not the team that we saw the first 3 weeks when it was like, oh, they're a laughing stock. This team's not going to do anything. With the way the NFC East has kind of unfolded now, and with the way the whole NFL, you just don't know what you're getting on a week-to-week basis. Feels like the Giants, the Chargers when we were like, that's just lightning in a bottle. But now you beat the Eagles, and you're 2-1. Chargers, Eagles are your wins in the Jackson Dart era. They feel like a frisky little playoff team potentially now. Call me crazy if that's crazy.
I wouldn't go that far. I would say this, though. I predicted that the Giants, and this was with Russ, I predicted the Giants going into this season would be capable of winning upwards of 7 games. I still feel like they're capable of winning upwards of 7 games. Now with Jackson Dart in there, maybe you can squeeze out 8. I think that they could possibly do that. That's not going to get them in the playoffs, but what it does is it gives them something to build for next year. They'll get Malik Neighbors back. They'll obviously have a pretty decent draft pick as far as, where they're going to be picking. And I think it puts them in line with being able to say, we should be a playoff team. And I think that's next year, though. You have to understand that, Jackson Dart's playing really well, and he looks like he's the part of an NFL quarterback for sure. But there are going to be some growing pains as these teams start to see what he does best. The one thing that he does really well that I think he does a little too well, he has no problem running the football. And you're going to take a shot. He took one last night, and you thought maybe he was knocked out.
And Daboll was rushing him through concussion protocol.
Daboll,
he's like, hey, hurry up.
Ran into that. He ran to that tent real quick. Like, do you understand my job is on the line if you don't come out of here?
Russ is getting me fired.
Exactly. So, yeah, they've got something. I was really impressed with the Giants last night. That was probably the most alive I've seen them and their crowd look in a long, long time. So if you're a New Yorker, you got to feel good because, again, in sports, if you get the quarterback position covered, that's the most important position in all of sports. If you're a baseball fan, you might say, pitcher, whatever. But I think in the NFL, today's game, if you get one, you have opportunities to win games, and now they do.
I think you could even take it out further where the NFL franchises are worth a lot more. QBs are touching it every offensive snap. And so just on a per touch basis, they are generating more and have more eyeballs on them. And with Jackson Dart too, kind of going back to what Raven Robb said, where he sometimes throws off his back foot. With Jackson, there might be a time coming where he does come back to earth a little bit because he plays a little wildly, but that is also what makes him great. And I hope that Daboll is able to keep his job through this year, and I think he will. The Mara family seems that they gave him a really long leash, which I really like, and he showed he was a good coach in, 22 with Daniel Jones when they schemed a playoff win up, and now with Jackson Dart, he gets his quarterback in, and it looks like Daboll is back to 2022 Buffalo Bills type of Daboll stuff.
He can call his offense now.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to hide anything. You literally saw it open up right in front of you last night, and I think it caught the Eagles off guard too. Like, what is going on here? We can't stop these guys. And that was with backup receivers. And it just looked very cohesive, their unit. They looked physical. That was the thing that surprised me. They were running the football like down the throat of the Eagles, literally.
And without Jalen Carter there, who reportedly doesn't want to play because of the MetLife turf and all of that stuff. Jalen Carter's made a couple of interesting decisions here to begin 2025. Promising player, one of the best maybe the best interior defensive lineman in the NFL right now. But the spit to open the season, 5 seconds into the new year, gets benched or gets ejected. And then, granted, he was dealing with a heel injury, but having that report come out from Ian Rappaport feels a little interesting.
Well, I'll tell you this. I was hearing the same thing. So it is true that the heel injury, they decided to make that conscious decision to keep him out. But also what that was a blatant disrespect to the Giants because they didn't feel like they needed him. They felt like, oh, we can keep him off the field today and we're still going to roll this team out here. And they found out the hard way that that's not the case. But also what it showed me was the Eagles kind of got exposed. Without this guy, because we saw the Cowboys do it in that first game.
Yeah.
You can run the football on them when he's not on the field, and you can also pass the football when he's not on the field because he is that good. But yeah, man, these are the storylines that are starting to really creep up and become too prevalent for me if you're an Eagles fan.
Is it time to panic on the Eagles? Is it time to panic?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
All right.
Not at all.
We're not hitting the panic button yet. I'm a little bit more of a jumpy person, so I'm getting a little worried for what's happening over there in Philly.
That panic button's not even in their room right now. However, you come out and lay an egg in your next game, I mean, then you might be able to say, okay, something's wrong. But right now, I just think they're still in a little bit of a hangover. That's what happens.
Yeah. They woke up a little bit and they had one too many double IPAs the night before at one of those Scott's Edition breweries, and they're feeling a little bit more this morning than maybe they did a year ago. All right, let's take a quick break. Be back, talk a little bit about some of the other games happening around the NFL on Sunday in Week 6 because it's a pretty fun slate. That'll be back when we come back on 106.1 ESPN Richmond. Is this for what I think it is?
I always play this after the Eagles lose. It's just they don't lose enough.
Okay. You weren't here on Tuesday when we had Lake in, and I gave him a little bit of a hard time for the Penn State stuff. So I didn't know if this was I didn't know if this was broken wings of the James Franklin era.
No, we don't have wings up there. Come on, man.
They need a Red Bull.
Give them a Red Bull. Yeah, they need a.
Don't get me going.
Look, they got Northwestern this weekend. They got Northwestern.
That doesn't.
Yeah, they had UCLA.
UCLA.
I mean, normally I'd be like, oh, we got an instant win. I don't know.
Oh man, poor James Franklin.
No.
You know what I learned?
He's making $8 million a year. There's nothing poor about that.
That's true.
Us, we're the poor ones.
And he's about to get paid $50 million to not work if they find an extra $50 million lying around.
I honestly don't believe he's ever going to get fired.
No, I don't believe he is either. Actually,
I mean, in fairness, not to make this a Penn State segment, but let me just clear the air here. He's a really good coach.
Yeah.
It's just that I don't know if he's a great coach, at least not yet. They have a lot of talent, but they have to find a way to get it done.
Yeah.
And that falls on your coach. And he's just historically been god awful in the big games. You know, they may keep them close, but there's decision making that goes into that where it's like questionable. And we saw that, you know, I saw it firsthand out in LA last week, and that was terrible. So a whole nother story.
Yeah. I think you're right. I do think there's decision. I also think like they've never had the transcendent quarterback in the James Franklin era to be like, oh, sometimes they can overcome the poor decision making. Like we all thought, or maybe not we all. I know Allen's been anti-Drew Aller for quite some time, but like
since inception,
and I have too.
Like there was this expectation around him, right? Where it's like he's going to take this step forward. I know he's been off target his entire career, which is a stat that typically doesn't get better, but he's going to get on. And then he's been worse this year. And Mike Renner from CBS Sports is out there. I don't know if you've seen the clip. He's like he's more undrafted free agent than he is second rounder.
Yeah, he's going to go in the second round for sure because he's 6'5", 235.
Yeah, and a team's going to fall in love with.
And he has played well. Like if you look at the UCLA game, it wasn't him that stunk it up. He actually performed well. He ran the ball as well. But that it factor, I've just never seen it.
Yeah.
And ironically, his backup for a couple of years, who's now at Missouri, Bo Prisbula, I literally thought that he was the guy that they should have ran with. They didn't, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Fun fact about James Franklin. As a JMU alum, I always have to find a way to plug JMU, was a wide receivers coach at James Madison for 1 year in the late 90s.
He was.
Just a fun little fact there. So that brings us to the National Football League on that clean segue. we'll get off of Penn State. We'll get off of them. We got a loaded slate. We were just talking about it in the break where there are some really, really fun games. Washington plays the Bears on Monday Night Football. We'll talk about that one at the very end.
Right.
Thoughts on do you like London international games? I know you're going out to Madrid, Spain for the Commanders international game, but kind of as a whole, have you liked how the National Football League has grown their international slate over these last decade plus?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I actually went years back when, at the time it was the Redskins played the Bengals, and it was a tie. Oh my goodness, I remember that plane ride home. Like, what did we do? But yeah, I do like what they're doing. They're trying to grow their brand, and the brand is being received well around the world. I mean, you're going to have a game in Australia next year. I mean, I think, I don't know if it'll be in our lifetime, but I do know that the league really, really wants to have perhaps a division or so over in Europe. And I just don't know how that would work.
I've heard that. And then the Jaguars too, weren't they like really close to going there? And then COVID happened and it kept everyone here and it blew up that plan essentially.
Yeah. I mean, the Jaguars have been adopted as like London's team. And, I don't think they'll ever go there. I actually do think maybe in the next 30 years or so, but I do think that there probably will be a division based out of the UK. And I think what will happen is that from a travel standpoint, I know this is so hypothetical, but just from the things that I do know from being in the league, I do know that is heavily talked about.
Yeah.
And these are all like test pilots right now to really see how can this work, because what's going to have to happen is you're probably going to have teams who are London based. When they come to the States to play, they're probably going to have to stay for upwards of a month or so.
Yeah.
And then when they go back, they're going to be playing at home for upwards of a month or so.
And then a team that goes over there to play, you probably want them to maybe run through the division so they're not flying back and forth. Although an East Coast trip, and this is me trying to...
It's just like going to LA.
I was going to say an East Coast trip is just you're just over water the whole time, but it's for the West Coast teams that then all of a sudden it becomes a long flight.
Yeah, it not just that, but you may have to go the other way. I mean, there's some kind of like maritime stuff and all that stuff where you can't fly.
There's jet streams.
You're not flying straight across. You're going up through Alaska to come back down and go to Asia, stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, but I know as a player, if I were drafted and let's just say I'm from the West Coast and you get drafted by a team that is in London, my goodness gracious, you talk about not seeing your family or them coming to see you. It little things like that they'd have to figure out. But I think it's being well received, and the fan base, over in Europe and especially like even in South America, games in Brazil. They love it. They really do.
And the Irish love the Ireland game. That
absolutely do.
That was crazy. The reception they got. We got Broncos Jets 9:30 a.m. A cup of coffee. Them over in the international slate. The Jets and Aaron Glenn. It feels like, I don't know if Woody Johnson and that whole family, the Jets ownership group, are going to give him the necessary time to build the culture that's needed, because they're upset about the start for the Jets, and they've been bad. Justin Fields, I expected Justin Fields to take a step forward this season and play better. His turnover problems are there. He's a little still rough around the edges. I hope the Jets give Aaron Glenn the necessary time.
Yeah, I think that they are a team that when I watch the Jets, I do see some improvements. I mean, they're playing hard. They are. And that's what you want.
And they like their coach.
That's it. I mean, you're not going to play hard if you don't like your coach. So they like him. It's going to take time, because that was the ultimate train wreck. And I mean, it was about as bad as it possibly could get. So it's going to take some time for him to get this thing on the right track. But they're several drafts away. From changing that. This isn't going to change this year or next year for that matter. The goal is to get a couple of wins this year and then improve on that next year. But you're talking about a 3-win football team this year. Maybe next year you can get to 5 or 6. And then that seems like some improvement. The question, like you said, though, is will they give Aaron Glenn 2 more years of this?
Yeah.
But who's going to come in there and really change this overnight?
And that's the issue. Like the Jets have been so quick to move on from people. And then you look at where Aaron Glenn came from with the Detroit Lions. That family gave Dan Campbell
a long
3
time,
years,
4
years
of 4 wins total.
And then now look where they are. they're one of the quietest 4-1 teams we have in the NFL right now. And it was because they afforded him the time to grow it and do what he needed to do to implement
get his
culture.
Guys in. Absolutely. I mean, patience is a virtue, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't have virtue.
and with the Jets, they've been bad for so long. What's being bad for another 2 years? Like that's what I can't wrap my head around sometimes with these NFL franchises.
But you know what the problem's going to be? The problem's going to be now if you're in New York, you see what the Giants are getting ready to do.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, oh, man, we're still going to be second fiddle. You're always going to be second fiddle. That's just the way it is up there. The Giants own that as far as football. But the Jets are just a draft picking quarterback away. Maybe I was just going to say a bad joke. I was going to say maybe they get Drew, but never mind. We're not going to do that. That's my school, man. I can't go against my own guys.
Yeah, sure. Maybe they get Bo when he comes out of Missouri, and it's like a Penn State guy finding his way there. Maybe they get Bo. Ooh, yikes on that one. Going to the Colts-Cardinals game, I love the Indianapolis Colts. I think after what happened with the Cardinals last week, that was arguably the craziest way to lose a game, with DeMarcado fumbling on the one, the interception that was a fumble that was recovered by Tyler Lockett and the Titans in the end zone for a touchdown. I want to say another crazy thing or two happened.
There were several in that game. That's another train wreck right there for you.
Yeah, but as you hear the Indiana Jones music coming through the headphones, Daniel Jones and the Colts. I don't know, like that's it. That's the statement, right? Like Shane Steichen, I think we all thought and it's funny for so many of these coaches, and I think it's a common theme. You give them time, things typically work out for good coaches. Dan Camp, I'm looking at you, Jets. Give Aaron Glenn time. Give him time.
And give him a quarterback.
Trust, right? But like Shane Steichen, year one with the Colts, he was making Gardner Minshew look like a solid starter in the NFL.
He really was.
And now Minshew, I think, is the backup for the Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken. And then AR-15, Anthony Richardson was a train wreck. You give Shane Steichen another year, he gets a quarterback that he can call his offense with, and boom, bam, one of the best teams in the AFC, just like that.
Without question. I mean, at 4-1, this is a football team that, you look at that division. I think now Jacksonville's come up as well. So you look at the Colts and you say to yourself, they have a legit chance to win their division and go into the playoffs with a home playoff game. I mean, it's going that direction, trending for them. They're really impressive, and they've always had, the pieces that they needed. They have a great running back, really good receivers. They just needed someone to get them the ball. And now they have that. And
it really did.
And I think, like we talked about earlier, there's certain places that fit people. And Daniel Jones doesn't, to me, never fit New York City. He just never did. He was a quiet guy, very unassuming, intense guy, but very unassuming. I think Indianapolis is the perfect market for him, and they've really embraced him as well.
Well, and you see it with so many players that not only do you have to fit the city, you have to fit the coaching staff, you have to fit so many different variables around it. Daniel Jones wasn't Daboll's pick. Daniel Jones kind of had this Eli Manning feel to him. They both made the weird faces, and then Daboll just never really fully connects.
Yeah.
And you're in the wrong city. It doesn't really fully feel like it connects. Then he finds his way to Indianapolis. You see it too. Mahomes lands in the perfect scenario with Andy Reid and KC. I like to go back to Marshawn Lynch going from Buffalo, where he didn't fit in at all. Like Marshawn Lynch was a West Coast guy. He finds his home in Seattle, where he's beloved, and he becomes arguably a fringe Hall of Fame type of running back. And there's so many examples of a guy finding their news. Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, it's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't give up on players within a year or two, unless they're really bad, like Zach Wilson, and then we can give up on them in an instant.
I say this all the time, to the fan out there. These are the best of the best. These are like, no offense, but these are like, you're managers at your job, like these are the really, well, some people might think their managers stink, and they shouldn't have the job. But yeah, these guys are the best of the best. And just to put it in sports terms, if you have a flag football league and you look at a guy that you think's a terrible receiver in the NFL, he'll come to your flag league and do whatever he wants to you at will.
Yeah. It's the quote from Brian Scalabrine. I'm closer to LeBron James than you are to me.
Absolutely. So yeah, these are the best of the best. And unfortunately, a lot of the great players are tied to great coaches. And if you don't get the right coaching in the NFL, you're going to look bad. You're going to look out of sorts, and your game isn't going to shine. It's not going to come through. So now you're getting that. You have a good coach in Indianapolis. He's got a quarterback now that he can entrust. It's the same thing in Jacksonville, another team in their division. They go out and they get a really good coordinator who's now showing that he can be a really good coach. And you're seeing Trevor Lawrence kind of start to look like what they were hoping. He's not there yet, but I
heard someone describe him as a blockhead, and I was like, that's a fantastic descriptor for Trevor Lawrence.
He does have a big head.
Blockhead, both the way his head is shaped and then also the way he plays football. How do you trip? On a first and goal with 30 seconds?
He made up for it.
But he made up for it.
He scored.
You mentioned something I want to touch on the other side of this break about coaches and players and coaches and quarterbacks. And there was a conversation we had yesterday about a famous coach-quarterback combo. One of them has now succeeded post-breakup, and the other one is destroying a storied college football program. We're going to talk about that on the other side of this break right here, 106.1 ESPN Richmond. Joined now Lake Lewis Jr. Show, our Rays and Hail Commanders insider as well. A couple other games I want to hit on. Rams at Ravens, Lake. We talked about the Ravens on Tuesday, looking like they'll be without Lamar again. And since we talked on Tuesday, they traded Odafe Owe, who was a pass rusher who wasn't producing a ton.
Who's from where, by the way?
Where is he from?
Penn State.
Yeah. All right.
He was Jason Owe when he was there.
Really?
He changed his back to his African roots. He went back to his name.
Yeah. Good for yeah. And it's a fantastic when he is sacking quarterbacks, when he's playing well. Yeah. It's a great name. He hasn't been playing all that well this season, but
I still was surprised by that move.
I was, especially because they need the pass rush help. You'd think you'd keep him around.
He's young.
He's very young.
Right. So you don't give away young edge rushers.
I was talking with someone who is kind of around the Ravens, and a thought was maybe they're trading him to open up cap space to then trade for another better pass rusher. But then both him and I kind of stopped and we said, well, who's available?
Right. Who?
Trey Hendrickson is older, probably only got a year or two left, and is in your division, and they're not trading him to
that
you.
Would be that. Well, we saw Jerry Jones do some dumb stuff,
and we saw Joe Flacco get sent to a divisional rival.
He's starting literally in 2 days.
That was weird.
Traded.
That was weird. But like, I just don't see where the Ravens are going, what they're thinking.
I was surprised.
And then you move Kyle Hamilton to linebacker, which weird, and then to replace him at safety, because you had to move him to linebacker, you bring in Aloy Gilman, and I may be mispronouncing his first name, and then noted locker room great guy, CJ Gardner-Johnson.
That's a head scratcher. I mean, talented, but when you sit out there for a week and a half, 2 weeks after you've been released, just, for what reason, we already know. That's saying a lot. That was a desperation move, if there ever was one, by the Ravens. I don't know what they're doing there. This almost has the stench of retooling for next year type thing. I don't know. It just doesn't sit well.
Yeah, because Owe, the reports were that they weren't going to re-sign him, so you trade him to try and get something back. But again, why? He would be an under-market pass rusher who has good plus side, who showed flashes. And it feels very weird for a front office that is regarded by most around the league as
one of the
best front office. And they're grasping at nothing, it feels like. And I'm worried almost that these aren't moves for next season. They think these are moves that are going to help them this year, and then they rush Lamar, or Lamar rushes himself back as an ultimate competitor, and they think they can make a play for the playoffs because the AFC North's just not that strong. And I just think this is a lost season for Baltimore.
I think what we saw last week with the Ravens I know Cooper Rush was in and Lamar wasn't, and Lamar is everything. That, he's my favorite player, he and Jaden, but we talked about this briefly, you and I.
Yeah.
Has the message been lost in Baltimore? Because that's what it looks like right now. Not throwing Harbaugh under the bus. He's a great coach. He's won a Super Bowl there. He's been everything you need for your organization. But sometimes you run your course where it gets stale. And he's been there for a long time.
He's the longest tenured coach, right?
He and Tomlin. I think it's Tomlin and then Harbaugh.
By like a year or
two. So, yeah. So, we're going to find out. If they lose to the Rams, if Lamar does play, which is still questionable because he didn't practice yesterday. If Lamar does play and they lose, you're 1-5. You're done.
And what a fall off for the Ravens and the Chiefs, who are on Sunday Night Football, because the Chiefs 2 wins, 2-3, and they've got the Lions are one of the better teams in the NFC since losing that opening game against the Packers. What have they done? Look like the best team in the NFC. And for the Chiefs, they're staring down 2-4. And just like the Ravens, it feels like with the Chargers, who have been on the come up, the Broncos, who have been on the come up, the Raiders, you get 2 free wins there, at least. Good for you, Chiefs, there. But
do you? Because, they're a divisional team, and they're
look what the Giants just did to the Eagles.
They're going to get one of those 3 teams. I promise you the Raiders get a win against one of their division teams this year. Just one. They finished the year with 2-3 wins, but they're going to get one just because it's a divisional game. I will say this, though. Kansas City, Baltimore. Kansas City looks way better than Baltimore right now.
Oh, yeah. Kansas City in their game against the Jaguars. I had a hole open.
Should have won that.
I had a hole open ready where it was, they're back. Oh, my goodness. Their offense is cooking. And then the Jaguars trip and that final play of Monday Night Football was the encapsulation of the Trevor Lawrence era in Jacksonville. You trip, you fall, you look like you're going to fail, and somehow you get up and you find the end zone for a win.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta find a way, and it also is a microcosm of the league right now. It's just like you don't know what's going to happen on each Sunday. So, yeah, you look at these records and you think, oh, this is a guaranteed win. Well, we thought that last night was going to be a guaranteed win by the Eagles, and they got marched off the field. So, yeah.
You'd think we would learn something, because I remember week 1, Thursday night, Eagles-Cowboys. Oh, the Eagles are going to blow them out. This is going to be crazy. And then I think it was 24-20 was the final. It's like, oh, maybe the Cowboys are and we didn't learn anything from that game, because we went into last night and we're like, the Eagles are going to blow them out. And then the Eagles lose. And it's just like, yeah, every week is so crazy. And
divisional games. That's what I always say. You never, like when people were dismissing Washington beating the Giants in week 1, I'm like, no, man, that was a divisional football game. And they looked really impressive in that game. You have to take these games for what they are. Look at Green Bay and Detroit. I'm sure if I asked you right now, if I asked you and Alan, literally, if Green Bay and Detroit were to play again tonight, who are you taking? I think all 3 of us are taking Detroit.
Yeah.
Well, Green Bay rolled Detroit in week 1. So you have to take these things with a grain of salt sometimes.
And divisional games on Thursday nights, too, are also just very weird.
Or any game on a Thursday night. Trust me, I was in Green Bay for that one.
The injuries tend to happen more. That's
Jaden got hurt in that game.
Jaden got hurt in that game.
That's what I'm saying.
There's been another big injury on a Thursday night. There's always big injuries on Thursday night games. But, that game, though, for the Chiefs, going back to that one, I mean, who would have thought that the Ravens could be 1-5 and the Chiefs could be 2-4? And a combined 3-9 between 2 of the Super Bowl favorites coming into the year.
Literally, the only team that's holding course right now, as far as the big 3 in the AFC entering the season, is Buffalo. But what did they do last week?
And what they do the first half of a week, like how different the season is if Derrick Henry doesn't fumble in the first week. And this is what makes football so fun, the NFL, college, whatever it is. You can play the what if game and it can convince you one thing or another, because what if Derrick Henry doesn't fumble week 1 against the Bills?
Ravens might be on a run right now.
Yeah. I mean, that could have given them the confidence necessary. Yeah. And what if the Bills don't? And it's just, and you're sitting there and the Bills are the only one in the AFC that you're like, oh, I expected that, because you got the Jaguars up there with 1 loss, the Colts with 1 loss, and one of those. Crazy stuff.
It's the league. I mean, I look at Detroit at 4-1, and you said earlier that they're like the quietest 4-1 team in the league.
I've barely heard a peep. Like, there's not a storyline about them. They're just up in Detroit, putting their head down, going to. They are
do what they do.
Yeah.
They're winning games, but yeah, I think after that first game against the Packers, you looked at that team and you're like, oh, they're missing their coordinators. Ben Johnson's gone, Aaron Glenn's gone. You can see that they're going to not be the same team. They've picked it up again, and now they look like right now. I think if you have a power ranking as far as the NFC, at least Detroit's won. They have to be
second best point differential too in the NFL, best in the NFC, behind only the Colts.
Isn't that something?
Colts have a plus 74 point differential.
That something.
And point differential doesn't give you the whole story, of course, but
I'll take it. If you're winning in that category, you're pretty much. I think if you go back and look at every, I don't want to say playoff team because there have been some bad playoff teams that got in with losing records. I covered one.
Hey, the Seahawks won a playoff game when getting in with
I covered one a couple years back during COVID, and they won their division at 7-9. I was like, wow. But yeah, you think about that. If you look at the teams that maybe get to the divisional playoff games and you look at their point differential, they're always positive. So that's a good sign.
And there's not been a peep out of Detroit. Like, I looked at the standings the other day and I went, oh, that's right. They are 4-1. I haven't heard from them and
4-1 and well, I was going to say they've played some good teams, but Baltimore doesn't look like that win doesn't look like a quality win at this point. But we know it was though, because it was in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Baltimore.
That was when they were still healthy, but you do have to recalibrate your mind a little bit sometimes because that defense, even when Lamar was in there, that defense was bad. I've never seen a defense that bad.
Did Detroit even throw a pass that game? I mean, they did, but I'm just saying they brutally ran the football on these guys.
They got Sonic and Knuckles back there. They got David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs, and boy, oh boy, are they a fun little duo.
They went to work.
But Lake, thank you so much for stopping by here, chatting some NFL with us. We had to give you a little bit of a hard time about Penn State. Hopefully they pull out the win on Saturday against Northwestern, and the trajectory's back going upwards for the
If they lose to Northwestern, I'll come in here next week with the Northwestern jersey.
I hate to tell you, but in 2 weeks you got Ohio State, so you already know what that is. So.
Win, yeah, we're gonna.
But see, the way this year's going, they'll mess around and do something they have no business doing,
like beating Ohio
State,
and then missing the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, they still have Indiana too. At Indiana,
fighting Kurt Signetti's over there are going to give you guys a hard time. Appreciate Lake for stopping by. We're going to get a quick